name's Lydia. I'm one of the physios here at PhysioFlex in Helensville, and I take a Pilates class here once a week, and I'd like to show you some basic Pilates for your deep core and your deep glute muscles around your hips, and a few nice stretches as well. So go ahead and take a lie down on your back, anywhere comfortable. If you've got somewhere with a wall, that's good for the glute exercises. Start lying flat, and what you want to first make yourself aware of is the position of your body. So the starting position is having about 90 degrees of bend at your knees. You want your feet hip distance apart and parallel. Even weight distribution across your pelvis, so you're not twisted with more weight on one side than the other. And then a nice neutral position through your lower back. So what that means is that you're not arched away from the mat like this, and you're not pressed flat into the mat with your lower back. You just want to be in a nice relaxed position, and you should be able to get a hand nice and easy behind your lower back, but with the back of your rib cage nice and connected to the ground. Through the shoulders, you want the shoulders down and away from the ears. So just roll your shoulder blades down, as if you're trying to put them in your back pockets, and then just walk your fingertips down the mat a tiny bit to make the arms nice and long. Also think about making the back of your neck nice and long. Chin drawn slightly down to protect the neck from any strain. And then that is your start position. Now the next thing to think about is your breathing. So with Pilates, you don't want to be breathing into your upper chest and hyperventilating. You also want to not breathe fully down into your stomach like diaphragmatic breathing. You actually want to breathe down into the bottoms of your rib cage. So you're flaring out through the ribs as you breathe in, and as you breathe out, engaging the core. So try that for a few breaths. It can be kind of hard to get the hang of that. The next thing is your deep core engagement. So if you bring your fingertips just to the front of your pelvis, feel for the bony points that stick up, and then just drop your fingers in just inside those and push in nice and deep. And then if you clear your throat, you'll feel your core just naturally engaged. So you go and you'll feel your core engage, and then see if you can just hold that contraction just gently. So you're not holding 100% like you're doing a really heavy lift, but you're just very gently engaging. If you need to clear your throat again, just do that a few times. So you should feel a slight push up into your fingers as the muscle contracts. And then I believe we've been doing some pelvic floor exercises already. So go ahead and lift through your pelvic floor at the same time. And again, it's just a very gentle lift. So you're not doing a full pelvic floor lift all the way up, like when you're doing your strengthening exercises. You just lift to like 25 to 30%, and then try and maintain that as you do the exercises. It's really important just for helping with core strength and just helping to stabilize the core. So just bring all of that together. Make sure you're still in your good setup position, core gently engaged, pelvic floor lifted, and try to keep breathing as you do that. Try not to let the muscle flicker on and off. It might do to start with, but just do your best. And if through any of the exercises you get confused, and you feel like you're not doing it properly, just come back to the basics. Go back to your starting position, core engagement, breathing and positioning. And if you're comfortable, you can put your hands down by your sides, or I do recommend keeping one hand on the front of the pelvis to monitor the muscle contraction and one hand behind the lower back. And that's going to just make sure that you're in that neutral position, that you're not flattening into the mat because you're not strong enough to hold and you're bracing, and that you're not arching away from the mat as you move the legs. Okay, so now we'll start the exercises. So the first one we'll do is a very basic heel slide, sliding down the mat as you breathe in and back up to the start position as you breathe out. We'll do 10 on each side. Inhale as you go down, exhale as you slide back up, and focus on keeping the pelvis really still, keeping that steady core contraction. Nothing changes except for the legs. Breathing in as you slide and out as you come back. And don't worry if you lose count, it's not really so much about the repetitions. It's more about making sure that you're doing it correctly. You've got the focus. Focus on your breathing. Make the movement in time with your breath. Don't try and breathe in time with the movement. So just a natural breathing. It doesn't have to be extra deep or extra long. Breathing in as you slide down and out as you come back. Just a couple more on each side. And always just feeling for that muscle contraction just gently in your lower core. Monitoring the pressure on the hand behind your lower back to make sure it always stays the same. Okay, just have a short break, relax the muscles, and check your neutral starting position again. So make sure the feet are hip distance apart, parallel, equal weight across the pelvis, little space between the lower back and the mat, chin drawn in and shoulders down. And then we'll come back to the core engagement, one hand on the front, one hand behind your back if you want to. And then engage, clear your throat again if you need to, lifting gently through the pelvic floor and breathing. And then we'll come into a knee fall out. So one knee at a time. Inhale as you lower one knee to the side. Only go till your knee makes about 45-degree angle. And then exhale, come back to the center. Inhale, other side. Switching sides each time. Keep your core just gently engaged the whole time. And make sure you don't get any rocking across the pelvis, so the weight stays the same on each butt cheek. No rotation through the lumbar spine. Just controlling the movement. So really it's only the hip joint that's doing anything. And we'll come back to on each side again. Breathing in as you lower and out back to the center. Draw the belly button down as you draw the knee back in. That will help to increase the core contraction if you think about a little string on the inside of the belly button pulling down towards the mat. So they're not sucking in, there's a difference. It's just a very gentle movement. Feel free to take any breaks if you want to. And also, don't expect this to feel like a big workout. Your muscles aren't going to burn at the end of this. But what you might find is that just across your lower part of your core feels just slightly fatigued, a little teeny bit achy. You might feel a little bit like menstrual cramps. And the reason for that is that we're not actually working, powerful, big moving muscles like your quads or your glutes. These are deep core muscles, and when they get fatigued, they just stop switching on properly. So you might notice that you start to lose the control. You're not quite able to breathe at the same time, or you start getting rotation through the pelvis, in which case just stop and have a little break. And restart. Okay. I'm sure that's 10 by now. Come back to the start position, recheck, your setup position, little space between the lower back and the mat. Now it's really important to have a hand behind your lower back for this next exercise, because if you're not
strong enough, the tendency will be for your back to arch away from the mat and make a bigger gap as you lower the leg down. And the movement can be quite subtle, so it can only be a little tiny movement, but that can sometimes be enough just to cause some irritation. So just keep your hand behind your lower back and then the other hand on the core. Find your engagement. The next one we're going to do is called a tabletop lift. So as you breathe in, keep the knee bent to 90 degrees. Inhale and lift the leg up to a tabletop. So you should have 90 degrees at the hip and 90 degrees at the knee. So not going right the way in like this. If you go right the way in like this, you'll squish your hand behind your lower back. So you're going to stop once you get to the vertical with the thigh. And then as you exhale, you're going to lower the leg back down and make sure you don't arch your back, core stays the same. And inhale, come over to the other side. So you will need a little bit more core engagement. And we're just going to make sure that only the legs are moving. Pelvis stays still. Everything else has stayed the same. Chin stays drawn in. Shoulders down. And as you do this, try not to kick the foot up or let it drop down. So imagine that your knees are in a brace and it's locked. So you can't have any more bend in the knee or any less bend in the knee. The knee must stay at 90 and it just moves up and down like a block. The hinge has jammed. Keep moving with your breath. So as you're breathing in, you're lifting up. And as you're breathing out, you're lowering down. Always thinking about that lower core contraction. If you've lost it, then stop and restart. That's absolutely fine. Key is to have smoothness of your movement and control of the movement. No jerking, nothing sudden. It's all about the mind-body connection and getting a really strong connection between your brain and your deep core. Okay, when you've done about 10 on each side, or you just feel like you're starting to lose the control a little bit, then have a little rest. You can bring your arms out to the side with your arm right by the wall and just roll the knees from side to side and a little stretch. Come to the center and just bring both knees into your chest and stretch out the lower back. You can do some little circles with the knees. It's a nice way to loosen up after doing the core exercises. So that is kind of your building blocks. So you start with those exercises, they're very basic. And then from there, as your core gets stronger, you can increase the intensity of the exercises. You can do things like adding the arms, doing curl ups, doing arm and leg movements together. All of these things can be added, but to start with, start right down at the foundations, get your core activating correctly, and then you can build from there. Now the next thing I'd like to show you is a couple of exercises for your glutes. So your glutes are your hip muscles, so come onto your side, and again 90 degrees of bend at your knees, and if you've got a wall, plaster yourself up against the wall. So your bottom hip and your shoulder are right up against the wall, heels against the wall, and then bring your top hand onto your hip and roll it slightly away from the wall and slightly down. So just do that again. So you're going to come slightly forward away from the wall, and then if you put your hand on top of your pelvis and push it down towards your heels, you'll get a slight lift through the waist, and that's what you want. And then engage through the core, gently drawing the belly button in so you're not sort of poking your stomach forward like this. So you're plastered up against the wall, but with that hip slightly away, heels squeezed together. And then what we're going to do is open your knees up like a book. You can turn your toes up towards the ceiling and then lower back down. The key is not to let your hip rock back into the wall, so don't let yourself push right back like this. You want to be slightly away. You can put your fist behind your butt to keep that position. And then we're just opening and closing the knee. This is called a clamshell. If you want to work a little bit harder, pop a resistance band around your knees and work against that. Make sure you still get to full height though. And some people's clams will just naturally be smaller due to hip mobility, whatever, doesn't matter. Work with whatever range you've got. And we'll do 10 or 15 of those. Once you've done 10 or 15, the next exercise is called a dog leg. So it's like a dog wegging like this. Now keep that little waist lift, keep your core engaged, all the same positioning. The leg comes up as one block, heel and knee traveling at the exact same time. And you can do 10 or 15 of those as well. With this one, the breathing doesn't matter quite so much. You don't have to time it with your breathing, but do make sure that you continue to breathe. You should be feeling this working on the side of your hip. And then the last one I'll show you is the leg right up straight. Keep your heel against the wall. Roll your hip slightly forwards, but keep the heel back against the wall. Core engaged, and then lift the whole leg up the wall. Try to slide the heel against the wall. Don't let it drift forwards, and that will make sure that you do it correctly, because if you let the leg go forward like this, it's no longer using the right muscles. So really squeeze those glutes, squeeze your hip muscles, activate them. And then when you're done, you can switch over onto the other side, do the same on the other side. And then have a stretch at the end, so I'll just show you the stretch. If you cross one knee over the other, and then reach between your legs, hold the back of your thigh, and just stay like that for about 30 seconds to a minute, just to release any tension through those glute muscles. And then switch sides and do both. So,
I hope that was useful for you, and yeah, try practice twice a week at a minimum for maintenance, but if you want to improve your strength, you need to be doing 3 or 4 times a week ideally. So just pop through those exercises a few times a week, and I'm happy to show you more if anybody would like to. Thank you very much. Bye.